Driving through Winslow, there lies an old Spanish hacienda. Sandwiched between railroad tracks and historic Route 66, welcome to La Posada. Originally part of a chain of hotels and restaurants called Harvey Houses, and now a contemporary hotel. La Posada stands out among other hotels in town because of its mission revival architecture. This is thanks to Mary Colter and her vision for the hotel, one of very few women in the field at the time. She was known for her Southwestern-inspired architecture, like many of her buildings located along the Grand Canyon. Colter had a way of blending history, fantasy, and culture. She crafted a story, and current owner Alan Affeldt says it's one of the reasons she was so influential.
Colter used her buildings to teach people about the history of the Southwest, which is one of the reasons she's so influential. You have to think back to the turn of the last century, up to 1930 when this was built, and Americans tended to think culture came from Europe. Right? So if you look at all of our great courthouses, Capitol buildings, all that, they're European inspired. But in the early 1900s was when America was searching for an American architecture. And so Colter, kind of in that spirit of the times, said, we already have an American architecture. It's Native American architecture. It's the Spanish colonial architecture from the 1500s, right? It's an architecture that belongs here, that's rooted in a sense of place.
During its mere 27 years in operation, La Posada welcomed several famous guests. Some of these notable guests include Albert Einstein, Amelia Earhart, Presidents Franklin Roosevelt and Harry Truman, and Will Rogers. In 1957, La Posada closed its doors to the public. It was gutted and turned into offices for a short time before being scheduled for demolition in the 90s. That was until the National Trust for Historic Preservation caught wind and added La Posada to its endangered list in 1992. This is where current owners Alan Affeldt and Tina Mione come in. They bought the building from the railway, saving it from being destroyed. Alan says the resurrection of La Posada is tied to the resurrection of Winslow.
By the time I got here in the late 90s, all that was gone and forgotten about. People in Winslow had lost their place. And there were signs in town saying, God hates Winslow, and because the town had gone through this long economic depression. I think that part of the resurrection of Winslow relates to the resurrection of La Posada, and people again having a sense of place and a sense of pride in that place.
It was no easy feat, Alan said. It was a 3-year process of convincing the railroad not to demolish the building. But despite the frustration, Alan said it was very rewarding.
For us, it's been very, very rewarding, as well as frustrating. You know, it's a daily struggle, right? How do you make the place better? How do you help people discover it? How do you make people fall in love with it in the way that we did? You know, that's been part of the journey for us. So it's not at all like running a hotel. This is saving a national treasure.
Thanks to Alan and Tina, La Posada reopened its doors, honoring Mary Colter's original vision while also giving it a new contemporary life. Besides being a co-owner of the hotel, Tina Mione is a contemporary artist whose work was exhibited 3 times at the Smithsonian National Portrait Gallery, among several other museums and galleries nationwide. She has her own gallery upstairs that features her artwork.
I definitely think the Southwest changed my work because I love the open spaces. I love the emptiness around Winslow. I love going out on the reservations. I love this sense of wide open possibilities.
She said both she and Mary Colter blended the past, future, and present into their art.
For me, it was personal and incredibly important. I do feel her spirit here, and I think that is really important to me, and I hope somebody comes after us and protects this vision to her work after we're done.
Now, La Posada welcomes guests to enjoy its expansive gardens, the fine dining restaurant The Turquoise Room, and the Affeldt Mione Museum, where guests can see local and historical art, including the world's largest single-loom Navajo rug, which the Weavers family calls the Big Rug, also known as the Hubble Joe rug. La Posada represents a confluence of a bygone era and contemporary artistry, a tale of adaptation and rebirth.